The Young and the Restless spoilers. Under the heavy silence of Genoa City's night, Sharon could feel something shifting in the air, something dark, hidden beneath the surface of the woman who had so suddenly appeared in everyone's lives. Sienna Bacall had walked into town with her perfect smile, her enigmatic grace, and her evasive stories about the past, but Sharon had lived long enough to recognize the scent of danger disguised as charm. When whispers began to circulate about Sienna's late-night disappearances, Sharon's intuition ignited like a warning flare in her chest. She decided to watch, not out of curiosity, but out of the instinctive dread that came with sensing a secret too big to remain buried. The house Sienna rented on the edge of town was unlike any other, its curtains drawn shut at all hours, its windows covered in heavy drapes, and its doors reinforced with layers of locks that gleamed beneath the porch light. No one in Genoa City had ever been inside. Even the delivery drivers left packages at the gate, never daring to step beyond. And yet, every night around midnight, faint flickers of light danced behind those windows, as if someone were moving through the house with a candle instead of electricity. Sharon, ever cautious, parked across the street night after night, sitting silently with her headlights off, her breath fogging the glass as she waited for movement. Then one night, it happened. Sienna emerged from the shadows, dressed in black, carrying a small lantern and a bundle wrapped tightly in cloth. Sharon's pulse quickened. She followed her at a distance, her footsteps muted by the damp earth. Sienna crossed her yard, knelt by a stone path, and unlocked a hatch Sharon hadn't noticed before, a concealed entrance half hidden by ivy and overgrown grass. The sound of the metal latch lifting was sharp, cutting through the stillness like a scream. Sharon held her breath as Sienna descended into the darkness. Then came the sound that froze her blood, a low voice, trembling and desperate, followed by a muffled sob. Sharon leaned closer, heart pounding so violently she could hear it echo in her ears. A faint blue light flickered from below, revealing the outline of rough concrete walls. Sienna's voice floated up, sharp and commanding, as if scolding someone. Then it softened, unnervingly gentle, the tone a mother might use for a frightened child. Sharon strained to catch every word, but what she heard next made her step back in horror. Sienna wasn't alone down there. There was someone else, or something, chained, crying, begging softly for release. Sharon pressed a trembling hand to her mouth, the weight of realization sinking into her chest like ice. As the night deepened, the scene below turned more twisted. Sienna began speaking to the captive in fragmented sentences, switching between affection and fury. "You shouldn't have run. You know what happens when you disobey." The lantern's light flickered against the concrete walls, casting monstrous shadows that danced and distorted her face. Sharon wanted to leave, to run straight to the police, but her body wouldn't move. There was a magnetism to Sienna's madness, the calm precision in her cruelty, the unshakable belief that what she was doing was justified. Then, without warning, Sienna threw something against the wall, and a scream tore through the silence. Sharon stumbled backward, losing her footing on the damp soil, the noise catching Sienna's attention. The lantern light shifted, and Sharon caught a glimpse of the woman's eyes through the crack in the hatch, wide, glowing with something between rage and ecstasy. For a split second, Sharon thought Sienna saw her. She held her breath, pressing herself flat against the ground, praying that the shadows concealed her. Minutes dragged into hours, or maybe it only felt that way. Sharon couldn't be sure. When the noises finally subsided, Sienna climbed out, calm once again, her face emotionless. She locked the hatch with care, glancing around once before walking back toward the house. Sharon waited until the last light disappeared before crawling toward the hidden door. Her trembling fingers brushed against the cold metal. It was real. She could still hear faint murmurs below, rhythmic breathing, a quiet whimper. She wanted to open it, to see who or what was trapped, but fear held her hostage. The rational part of her mind screamed that she was alone, that confronting Sienna's secret now could cost her life. But the other part, the one that had always driven her to uncover the truth no matter the risk, whispered that she couldn't turn back now. The next day, Genoa City went on as if nothing had happened. Sienna was seen at Crimson Lights, laughing softly with Nick, her demeanor flawless, her lies wrapped neatly beneath designer fabric and a cup of coffee. Sharon watched her from behind the counter, her hand steady though her heart was not. Every gesture Sienna made felt rehearsed, every word too smooth. But behind her smile, Sharon saw it, the shadow of the woman from last night, the one who had whispered to the darkness beneath her house. It was there, hidden in her eyes, in the slight tension at the corners of her mouth. Sharon knew what she had seen was real, yet she couldn't tell anyone, not yet. She needed proof, something undeniable, something that would reveal Sienna for what she truly was. That night, Sharon returned. This time she brought a flashlight, a phone, and a deep sense of dread. The air was colder, heavier, as if the earth itself knew what secrets it was keeping. She approached the hatch again, crouched down, and pressed her ear to the metal. Silence. Then a whisper, a voice, weak and pleading. "Please, help me," Sharon froze. The voice was real. She quickly turned on her flashlight, scanning the edges for another way in, when she noticed something strange. The ground had been disturbed, the soil freshly packed. Someone had tried to hide the entrance. Panic rose in her chest. Sienna had moved faster than she expected. She was covering her tracks. Before Sharon could retreat, a noise from behind made her spin around. The light caught a silhouette, Sienna standing only a few feet away, her expression unreadable, her voice calm as silk. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly, almost kindly. For a moment, Sharon thought she might talk her way out of it, but then she saw Sienna's hand, gloved, gripping something metallic. The reflection of the flashlight glinted against the blade. Sharon took a step back, her mind racing. The wind picked up, whistling through the trees, carrying with it the faint echo of the cries she'd heard below. Everything inside her screamed to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Sienna tilted her head, smiling faintly. "You heard them, didn't you?" she whispered. "You shouldn't have listened." The rest of the night would blur into fragments, a chase through the darkness, the sound of footsteps pounding against wet ground, the flash of light against the edge of the woods, and finally, silence again. When morning came, Sienna's house stood quiet as ever, the locks untouched, the curtains drawn. To the outside world, she was the same polished woman she had always been. But somewhere beneath that house, the truth still lingered, breathing, waiting. Sharon would never unsee what she had witnessed, and Sienna would never forget that someone had discovered her secret. From that moment forward, the battle between them became one of silence and shadows, a dangerous game of watching and waiting, where one wrong move could unearth horrors that Genoa City was never meant to see. Would Sharon risk everything to expose what she found, or would Sienna's darkness consume her first? The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the quiet streets of Genoa City carried on, unaware that beneath one house, in the depths of a sealed basement, something, or someone, was still calling out for help. The chilling mystery surrounding Sienna Bacall's hidden basement only grew deeper as rumors began to circulate through the quiet corners of Genoa City. It started as whispers at Crimson Lights, brief exchanges between customers who lowered their voices the moment Sharon walked by. Some claimed Sienna wasn't just hiding a secret, she was hiding someone. Others insisted they'd heard muffled noises near her home long after midnight, the kind of sounds that could never be explained by an old furnace or a restless pet. But one rumor stood out above all others: Sienna was keeping Mitch Bacall, her estranged husband, locked away beneath her house. It was the kind of story that twisted the stomach and refused to fade, no matter how many times Sharon tried to convince herself it was just gossip. Yet the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. Mitch had vanished shortly after his supposed car accident months earlier. No public funeral. No confirmed sighting. Just a vague statement about recovery and privacy, followed by silence. What if that accident hadn't killed him, but left him broken, physically, mentally, and Sienna had decided to take matters into her own hands? Sharon replayed the images in her head, the locks, the cameras, the reinforced doors, the strange deliveries Sienna received at odd hours. What if those weren't signs of guilt but of protection? What if Sienna was trying to keep Mitch alive rather than hidden? Yet the night Sharon had heard the screams, the voice hadn't sounded like gratitude or pain, it had sounded like terror. A desperate, trapped kind of terror that no medical treatment could justify. And if Sienna truly meant to heal him, why hide it from everyone? Why speak to him in the tone of a captor instead of a caregiver? Still, doubt gnawed at Sharon's mind. Mitch and Sienna had always shared a volatile relationship. Before his disappearance, they were seen arguing at the Newman Gala, their exchange sharp enough to draw attention from even the most self-absorbed guests. Rumors hinted at betrayal, money, and a scandal involving confidential corporate data from Jabot and Newman Media. Could it be that Mitch had turned on her, or that she had discovered something dangerous enough to make her lock him away instead of calling the police? Or perhaps, in some twisted irony, love was her motive, an obsessive, destructive form of love that refused to let him go even when fate demanded separation. Days passed, and Sienna continued to act as though nothing was wrong. She appeared at society for brunches, exchanged polite words with Kyle Abbott, even joined a charity planning meeting alongside Nikki Newman, her demeanor perfectly composed. To the public eye, she was elegance personified, a woman rebuilt from tragedy. But Sharon saw the cracks, the distant gaze, the faint tremor in her hands when someone mentioned Mitch's name, the way she avoided eye contact whenever the conversation veered toward the subject of the accident. There was guilt there, raw and heavy. Whether born of crime or compassion, it was impossible to tell. Sharon kept her distance during the day but returned at night, drawn by the same morbid curiosity that had once gotten her entangled in darker mysteries. The house remained silent, yet every shadow, every rustle of wind, made her heart skip. She knew the truth was still down there, breathing in the dark. Then came the delivery, a small medical crate marked urgent, left outside Sienna's gate with no name attached. Sharon watched from her car as Sienna dragged it inside. The box was heavy, its label containing codes familiar only to hospitals and research facilities. If Mitch was truly there, perhaps Sienna wasn't torturing him. Perhaps she was keeping him alive in secret, fearing exposure or retaliation. After all, Genoa City was no stranger to underground schemes and medical cover-ups. But even if her intentions had begun with care, how far had she gone now? Could she have lost herself in the illusion of control, believing she alone could fix what was broken? Weeks stretched into silence, and Sienna's walls seemed to grow higher, thicker. The cameras multiplied. The curtains stayed shut longer. Sharon grew restless, uncertain if she was chasing the truth or being pulled into a nightmare that might destroy her. Every instinct screamed that something horrific lay beneath that house, yet another part of her whispered that perhaps, this time, the horror was built on misunderstanding. If Mitch was alive, he might be too weak, too scarred, or too frightened to appear. Maybe the screams she heard were not of pain but confusion, a man fighting against the prison of his own broken mind. But until someone saw him, until someone found proof, the truth would remain buried with the darkness that Sienna seemed so desperate to protect. For now, all of Genoa City could do was wait. Wait for a crack in Sienna's perfect composure. Wait for Sharon to find the courage, or the recklessness, to descend those steps again. Wait for a sound, a message, or a body that would finally confirm what lay beneath the surface. The secret continued like a pulse beneath the town's calm exterior, alive, persistent, and terrifying. Whatever Sienna was hiding down there, whether it was guilt, love, or a monster of her own making, one thing was certain, the truth was coming, and when it did, it would change everything.